Good afternoon. My name is Rob Mattern with Mattern, and I am honored to be here with Milan Bobde, CEO and co-founder of Oddr. Welcome to our first coffee break of 2025. Milan, how you doing there?
I'm doing great, Rob. Thank you for having me.
Uh, no, I tell you, we are honored to have you on here. Um, I tell you, I'm probably most of you are wondering why Mattern has Oddr, who specialize in the whole invoice to cash flow area. Okay, an area that really we don't consult in. But many of our firms are struggling with the whole cash flow issue. And what we, how this whole thing developed was, Mel and I were on a panel together at the COO CFO conference, Thomson Reuters conference in New York City, and panel went very well. There was a lot of interest, and really what he was saying was, geez, I'm thinking this is really a unique approach to firms handling their billing, okay, and collections and invoice processing. So I thought, hey, it would make sense to try to expose more firms to this area. We like to be a single source trusted advisor to our clients. And you know, again, we don't dabble in this area, but we thought it'd be great to get Millen on here, walk through some questions, have him explain the process, get questions from the audience, and really present this idea. What even made this more interesting was a number of our clients have signed on with Oddr, Best and Krieger out in California, Voorhees out in Columbus, Ohio, and Reinhardt out of Milwaukee. And I'm thinking, boy, if they were smart enough to hire Mattern, and then they turn around and hire Oddr, there must be something working here. So that's the basis for this conversation today. Now, again, I know most of you are used to Mattern talking about administrative services, outsourcing, and so on like that. So we're really not going to touch upon any of those areas. We're going to focus on Oddr's platform and how they roll it out and what are the benefits to the firm. So before we get started, just a couple housekeeping items. One, everyone is muted. Unmute yourself to speak, ask questions, and participate. Make sure you introduce yourself if you do. Please feel free to submit questions through the chat function, and we'll work them in as best as we can throughout. And last but not least, if you're not asking a question, please mute yourself so we keep background noise down. And at the end, we do have a short little questionnaire asked about future topics and so on like that I ask you to please fill out. So that being said, you ready to get started?
Absolutely.
Okay, fantastic. Okay. On your website, you have a very interesting line that says, Oddr brings order out of chaos. Okay, I thought first of all, I thought it was a great line. I'm kind of upset that you stole it and started using it before we could. But explain that. How does Oddr bring this order to the invoice to cash flow situation?
Yeah, no, it goes back to how and when we started, Rob. So when we started about 3 years ago, this category of invoice to cash did not even exist. No one. So part of our diligence early on was we talked with multiple firms to understand what is billing, collections, payments, reconciliation, and what are the challenges. And as we were talking to this, we were always phrasing it as invoice to cash. And most firms would say, well, what do you mean by invoice to cash? So this phrase didn't even exist 3 years ago. A lot of our effort was to kind of share this information that if you look at Gartner, Gartner has a magic quadrant for invoice to cash. But like most solutions in Gartner, they're not really purpose built for law firms. So, we kind of brought that education to the industry to say, hey, what does invoice to cash mean? And it, just in a nutshell, it's basically your invoice lifecycle management. And as we are doing our discovery, we found that this process is extremely fragmented today. firms would use anywhere from 3 to 5 to 6 different softwares to manage a life cycle of an invoice. And we did lots of surveys over the years, and some of the very interesting statistics came out. Like 90% of the firms said they struggle whether the invoice has been sent or not. Right? These are so critical business functions for a firm for them to not have visibility or have a holistic view of where their invoices are today in this life cycle. And there are multiple phases that they go through, right?
Okay, time out.
So
You said that
yeah,
70% of firms don't know that an invoice was sent or not.
yeah. I mean, it's like, hey, many firms have a centralized billing where the billers are sending, or they have an hybrid where some billing attorneys are sending. So, one of the constant thing we heard was, someone in the leadership is trying to say, have all the invoices gone out for this month? And no one can definitely say, oh, yes, all have gone out. It's because just the process and the tools are not there for the firms to know this information. And I'll joke about this, which is I would be a millionaire if I got $1 for every time I heard someone in collections called the client to say, hey, your invoice is overdue, only to hear back from the client, what invoice? I never got an invoice. So, the problem really compounds because there's no single tool, but then these fragmented approach really are not sharing the right data to provide that view for firms to know where their invoices are.
Okay,
Um,
it's interesting. I'll just interject. It's interesting. We're getting
yeah,
we have a lot of outsourcing for law firms, and I
yeah,
tell you, the two areas that are coming up more and more is billing,
yeah,
okay, and trying to take time entry out of the attorney's hands. Now I know that's pre-Oddr, the time entry
yep.
part. However, yeah, that's a popular function to outsource.
Yeah, and a lot of this is driven by just not having the right tools or the efficiency gains that firm can have by automating. Now, whether it's an outsourced team that uses it or it is the in-house team, we want to be efficient in any of those situations, right? Why do something manually when we can automate things? And that's just the very notion and philosophy that we have when we started with, right? Which is eliminate everything manual. Everything should be automated, and simple things like having a single glass pane view to know where your invoices are. Have they reached the client? Has the client opened the email? Has the client viewed the invoice? From the collections perspective, which clients are behaving differently? So we'll dive more into it, I know, Rob, but that was what we are basically seeing as a chaos today with firms. And the best part of this was we talked with 80 attorney firms, and we talked with 2,000 attorney firms. The problem is still the same. And it's because this is such a critical business functions, and not having the visibility can have pretty big business impacts.
Yeah, I tell you, fascinating. Fascinating. Well, I tell you, I want to. I know we kind of have some questions that we definitely want to touch upon, but how did you get started? Like, how did this notion come up? And you mentioned a little bit about it there, but tell us how you got started in this area.
Yeah, so it goes back to, so I mean, Rob, and hopefully folks in the call at least are familiar, but if not, I'll give a little background about myself. I've been in legal tech for 2 decades now. Started my journey with Elite, spent about 7.5 years over there, and then joined Intap back in very early 2012. Spent a decade over there helping launch 7 new products at Intap. But during this time, I've worked with law firms, and just having these relationships with the firms, I used to constantly hear about the challenges, right? I mean, if you look at the revenue cash cycle, that's been hard for many, many years. That's not a new problem. Firms have been trying to solve that problem and streamline their revenue cycle for many, many years. But as you do a double click on it and try to figure out where the problems are, we started to see these patterns. And my other two co-founders, Saurabh Mehra and Sumit Garg, they also come from a very similar legal background. So, one of these days, we were just sitting down and talking about things, and we said, hey, this seems like a pretty big problem. And that gave us the idea to say, let's build something for solving this critical business function. I mean, you think about this, Rob. Law firms are professional services. The money coming is primarily dependent upon the invoices that go out. How do they track, and how quickly can invoices be paid, right? For such a critical business function, not having the right tools can really be very negatively impacting their financial stability, their growth plans. And that's what the whole problem we are solving here.
Interesting. Interesting. So
Yeah,
you saw an opportunity, you decided to go after it.
that's right. That's right.
Okay, that's fascinating. Okay, we're going to do a polling question just to get a handle on how well your firm knows the status of their invoices. So, Olivia, if we can launch that, okay, excellent. We'll take about 10, 20 seconds to fill this out. So it's been 3 years since you got started?
Yeah.
No?
So it's coming up on our 3-year anniversary in a few weeks' time.
Okay.
And majority of it, while we're getting the poll, the first 6-8 months we spent was just kind of doing our discovery and diligence, talking to, we talked to about 80 law firms, close to 150 different professionals, from CFOs, CEOs, director of finance and revenue, to billing managers, collection managers, and actual billers and collections. And I know we'll touch upon this, but we actually talk with clients too on what their experience is. And very soon into our third and fourth conversation, we started to see very similar problems. And that kind of reinforced that, yes, this is a problem. And if we can build something from grounds up on how law firms function and support this core business process, it's a win-win for everyone.
Okay. Okay, let's see what the results.
Yeah. So I think it's a very well representative of what we hear and see. So there are tools and there is processes that firms have today. So majority of them are saying somewhat aware, and some of them are saying they're 100% aware, which is awesome. I hope some of them are Oddr customers.
We should ask
But
that question.
I mean. We should have asked that question. No, but this Rob better than I do. Every law firm is unique, right? And they have their own processes that are customized to their specific needs. And the challenge that firms have is just not having the right tool to know if the invoice has gone out. Has the client received it? Has the client viewed it? Right? And that's very well represented by this answer. About 86% said they're somewhat aware, but not 100% sure where those are. Have they gone out or not? Or, depending upon the practice and how they are sent, some have more visibility. But I think it's a very well representation of where the invoices are. And firms do struggle, in terms of where the invoices are.
Okay, and really, your clients would be at 100%.
Yes. So
Okay.
whether those are e-billed or PDF or snail mail, at any time you go to the platform, you know exactly where your invoices are.
Okay. Well, hey, let's build on that. Walk me
Yeah.
through, because I tell you, again, this is not an area that we deal in. But every firm, as you mentioned, and consulting company, concerned about cash flow and the whole invoice, and we email them out, and then we find out 2 weeks later they didn't get them, and so on like that. So I identify with that part, but walk us through the process.
Yeah. So if you look at the invoice to cash process, Rob, there are distinct phases in it. So first, I would say, just in context of Oddr, there is no change in the way you finalize your invoices. That's a complicated process that firms have figured out working with their accounting practice system, whether it's a lead or Adrent or anything else. They generate the final invoices. From there, you look at the invoice to cash cycle, which means there are 3 different types of invoices to be sent and delivered. One could be, firms still have, although small, but a percentage of snail mail invoices they mail out. Then the lion's share we see typically is the PDF invoices, and then the ever-growing e-billing. And these 3 are generally the 3 formats of invoices that are finalized, and then the firm tries to get them out as quickly as we can. Now, from our perspective, we integrate to the accounting system, and from there, that single glass pane view kicks in. So talking of billing, we automate the PDF invoices being sent in a very unique way. We do not do e-billing, so we do integrate with your e-billing provider, whether it's e-billing hub or bill blast or something else. We are happy to integrate with them, so you still see that single glass pane view. And Snail mail, you cannot track a whole lot, but we still know that, hey, it was sent and it was paid, or whatever tracking we can have on that. But the lion's share, and again, obviously, every firm is different. The function of how much is PDF based billing versus e-bill depends upon the practice areas the firms have. So insurance based firms and practices have higher e-billing. Some of the trust, real estate, and M&A types have more PDF. So firms generally end up with 40-60 split or somewhere in that range. So e-billing, again, there are different providers. We don't do e-billing, but we do integrate to have that single glass pane view. You talk of PDF, you look at what's the cost of manually sending the PDF. Well, you take an average from in our customer today that sends anywhere from 1,000 to 3,000 invoices a week. And if I just say lower end of that, 1,000, so 1,000 invoices a week, and let's say it takes someone 5 minutes to type up the email, type up the person they are sending to, type up the subject, drag and drop a PDF in there, and then send it out. Let's say it takes conservatively, anywhere from 5 to 7. So let's say 5 minutes. If you just look at the weekly statistics, that's 83 hours of sending 1,000 invoices. Now, this activity can 100% has and will be automated through our platform. So that's 2 FTEs work in 1 week that you're completely automating. It also standardizes the look and feel of the email that goes out. So it's not what individual billers are typing up. If your attorneys are sending, we cater to that too. But here's an interesting thing. One of the statistics we did survey on last year, Rob, was how frequently does someone end up sending a wrong PDF to a client? And what's the
Ugh,
consequence of that? Because,
yeah.
hey, we are typing up, I type up John and autocomplete and it goes to the wrong. So about 67% of the firms had an incident where a wrong PDF was sent to the wrong client. And to unwind that is such a painful effort. And you take a hit on your credibility as a law firm. So again, automating not only increases the productivity of the team, but eliminates these wrong send invoices to wrong client scenarios. And the whole idea of our platform always is to automate and make the team productive, because there are so many areas that they can focus on as opposed to spending time manually typing up emails. So we track and we send invoices out. The other thing, just in staying in the invoicing, go ahead, Rob. Go ahead.
Okay. So there's also I don't want to say soft cost, hard cost savings that
Yeah.
could be had by the firm by reducing headcount
Yep.
in billing. Okay.
Yep,
Okay.
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you free up hours for the team, whether you downsize, right size, or you use the team to be looking at where the potential problems are, right? So there are many ways, but the idea is the team is more productive, right? And that, to your point, is also freeing up time and resources, right? The other thing that is a very big problem in PDF invoices is not having any visibility. So once I send it out, it's like a black box. I have no visibility if it was delivered, if the client looked at the email, if the client looked at the invoice. So typically what firms do is once those are sent, they would wait for about a 60-day AR outstanding report. And then that's when the first time that invoice pops out. I mean, you wasted, let's say on a net 30 payment terms, you wasted 30 days just by not having that visibility. We changed completely that. In our platform, you can go to the platform on, let's say, day 25th or 23rd and see if the client actually opened the email, if the client actually looked at the invoice. And if they have not, there's no way they will pay in the next 7 days if they have not even looked at the invoice. So you can reach out in an automated way with one click to your clients and say, hey, maybe you missed our invoice. Here's the invoice again. By the way, it's due in 7 days. Now, think of this as an impact on your invoice outstanding days. Reaching out on 60th day versus 23rd, that's 37 days faster.
Absolutely.
What's the
Okay.
monetary value of having that visibility and shortening your invoice outstanding days, getting paid faster? And there are numerous industry statistics that say the longer the invoice is outstanding, the less likely it will get paid 100%. So you start moving your invoices to the left of that aging buckets by having this visibility, right? And one last thing I'll mention before I talk about the other aspects is just knowing when that invoice will be paid. So you send an invoice and you hope you get paid in 30 or 45, but very few firms have the tools to say, hey, I'm sending this invoice to Smith and Anderson today, and I will get paid based on their patterns around March 24th. Our platform mines that data and shows you at the time of sending the invoice that you're sending this invoice, this client typically pays you in 43 days, expect to get paid then, right? So what's the power of that, right? All of these insights through automation and having that single platform brings this visibility.
Okay, so there, okay. I want to clarify this, and I'm sure most of our audience understands this completely, but okay, so you build up based upon how firms have gotten paid previously,
Correct.
okay? And you're able to predict, a firm
That's
typically
right.
pays in 53 days. So you're not actually doing anything going to that client and looking at anything they're doing. You're just building a model based upon previous payments, and
Correct.
you're able to
Correct.
predict it. Okay.
Yeah, and Rob, think about it. Most businesses are patterns. As Oddr today, when we get an invoice, we process it, we know when it goes out to our AP and AR systems, and then we pay, right? So these are patterns. So if you have invoiced to your clients previously, all that information of when the invoice was sent, when they paid is gold. And this is the data and power of information in our platform because we mine this and we have built these algorithms to really reduce the noise, standardize this, and tell the firm, hey, here's what it looks like based on their previous patterns when this invoice will be paid. And you have that information at the time of sending that invoice, which will have all that visibility on what's happening on the client side.
Okay.
Right.
Excellent. Okay.
All right, going to the next in that invoice to cash, I talked about e-billing. We do not do e-billing. We integrate with your e-billing providers over there. So we still bring that information into it. However, if you have post-submission activities like write-off workflows or escalating to billing attorneys, being able to respond back in timely, we do have processes and workflows to support that. But fundamentally, you would be continue to using your e-billing tools to submit the invoice or appeal and deal with rejections and rejections over there. Let's talk about collections, which is the next big piece of the invoice to cash part. Now, again, from my perspective, I always like to think, what is the role of collection software? And it is two parts, I would say. One is to know where your invoices are and how do you track and reach out to the clients with reminder statements and things like that. But also, more importantly, collections, if they have the right tool, they want to know where the potential problems are. There are always more invoices to be chased, Rob, than hours in a day. And how does a team in collections know of these 1,000 invoices that are on my plate, which one should I look at? Right? Where are the clients behaving differently from their patterns? Now, I'll throw some statistics in there, which is 60% of the firms are experiencing an average collection length of 61 to 90 days. That's a lot of time for an average net 30 or 45-day engagements. And 20% of the firms are even further out, 91 to 120 days. And this is not because the team is not working hard. I mean, geez, I talk to collections team and they are working really hard, but they again don't have the right tools today, right? Notes and other things are just means to make that 2 points really streamlined, right? We have the most comprehensive functionality, but the two things that we really focus on collections, kind of thinking more strategically. One, hyper automation. No one needs to send manually or statements out or generate statements. They should be done automatically. No one should be tagging emails and other things that come to your inbox or copy paste the contents of an email to the notes or have worrying about audit trails. That's all noise. The system and the platform should do that. And that's what we do with Oddr. But the second part is the predictive insights. Hey, which client is behaving differently from their typical patterns? Or which client typically looks at our invoice in, let's say, 5 to 10 days, and now it's been 20 days, they have not looked at our invoice. Well, maybe the person you are sending to your client's organization, he or she has left that company, and your invoice are just sitting in a void. So why wait for 60-day outstanding when you can have that visibility on day 20 and do something about it? Right? These are big chunks of days you're cutting out of your invoice outstanding days by having visibility and knowing where to focus, right? We automatically bubble up, for example, any outstanding and overdue invoices where there's no activity. An activity could be, oh, there's a email sent or a statement reminder, invoice share, payment plan set up in our platform, write-off workflow kicked off, escalation to the billing attorney. Like there could be a whole flurry of things that could be done. But if nothing is happening and it's overdue with the highest amount, we automatically bubble them to the top priority and say, someone needs to look at this. Because the $1 million question always is, if I come to the office, where should I focus today?
Right.
Where my time is best utilized to move collectively the ball forward for the firm, right?
Fascinating.
Um, yeah, yeah, and again, there are lots of processes that happen within. So hey, I want to send a reminder statement in 30 days, or I want to do a write-off workflow. How do we have integrated write-off workflows? Doing it outside in emails are always the problem. 9 months later, someone will come back and say, well, who approved that $2,000 write-off? The emails are gone, no one knows, right? So all of that is kind of just baked into our platform, built-in workflows to support everything that collection needs. And no one's tracking the emails by, hey, I need to drag this one email and then 5 more and 10 more, or copy the contents of an email into a note. All of that is completely eliminated in our platform. We track conversations, you drag it once, everything from there is dragged, whether it's forward or reply or anything else. So that's the big part of the collections, right? Knowing where to focus. The tools will take care of everything else, but as a team, you want to know where there are potential problems, where should I focus, and that moves the needle for us to get paid as a firm, right?
Okay. Quick question, and then I think
Yeah,
we'll and then we have a polling question. Um, just in dealing with law firms, and doing some outsourcing in this area, some attorneys say, hey, listen, I don't want you following up on my clients' invoices. I want to
yeah,
do it. Okay.
yeah,
Um, how do you handle that?
yeah. So two ways. Our platform absolutely supports having this flags and configuration to say, hey, this attorney or these clients, do not contact them with nothing. And you do that, and when you're sending bulk statements out, let's say you're sending 500 statements out in one click, they will automatically filter out. Or when one of the collection person goes to that client, it'll pop up and say, hey, John Smith does not want anyone to reach out to this client, right? So there's all that collaboration that is built into the platform. But second, more important thing is we have a very specific streamlined dashboard for billing attorneys. And it's a very simplified view with the goal of what a billing attorney wants. So going back to our discovery, when we talk with many billing attorneys, their key ask was, I want to know where my invoices are. I want to know where this potential problem. I want to know what my write-offs are, compared to my last 2 years, or which clients are taking longer to pay. So we have designed this dashboard specifically for the billing attorneys to have access to this information at any point. They can have this information in their emails, or they can come to the platform, or the same information can be surfaced in the choice of their reporting tool. All of those are supported. But the idea is to have a simplified view of what a billing attorney really needs. And that's available to them at their fingertips, whether it's an email, our dashboard, or let's say they use Power BI, a Power BI dashboard, right? So they can say, I got this, I'm going to reach out to this client because they take 107 days to pay our invoices. I'm meeting them next week. I'll take care of it, right? Or the collections team member can escalate that to the attorney, billing attorney, and say, hey, this client, is behaving differently. Uh, do you want me to reach out or you want to reach out? Right. So it's all built in collaboration for the team.
Okay.
So collectively as a front, the team sounds coordinated and they interact with the client in a more coordinated way.
Okay. Well, you guys thought of everything. Okay. Why don't we launch the next polling question? And it addresses some what we were talking about there. On a scale of 1 to 5, how well informed is your collection team on potential issues? and where to focus to maximize team productivity and collections. We'll give it a second there. I tell you, how do you get paid? Why don't we'll
So
throw that out there.
we
That's a question that came through.
Yeah, so we are an enterprise subscription platform. So there's, we are cloud platform, 100% cloud platform. We integrate with your on-prem accounting systems or in cloud, both for Elite, Adderant, and others. So we look at the number of attorneys and the invoice volume that a law firm is processing, and that's how we price our platform. So once you have that, it's enterprise license, any number of users, and we don't nickel and dime our customers. Everything in the platform is available, all these insights and everything. So it's one subscription fees. And I'll also mention that one unique nature of how we build and design this, again going back to our discovery, was this general fatigueness in firms when it comes to upgrades, right? So the way we designed our upgrades are at zero cost and zero downtime to the law firm. And we do
Okay.
releases every 6 to 8 weeks. So you get new functionality in your sandbox. And when you are ready, we move that to your production. So, subscription means you get more value every month or every 6 months. And it's not the same thing that should be there for 3 months or 3 years. And then you have to spend thousands of dollars to basically upgrade the system. No, none of that. In our platform, it's a true cloud product. So right from the beginning, our upgrades are built in. It's zero cost to you, zero downtime, and you get new functionality at a much higher cadence than any other vendor you previously might have worked with.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. So numbers are there.
Yeah.
I tell you, almost half the people are between 1 and a 2,
Yeah.
and about a quarter of the people are 4 to a 5. So
Yeah. I think it's very reflective. Like I said, some firms are very well organized. I see the same 7% very well plugged in. Again, I'll throw in, hopefully, most, if not all of them, are Oddr customers. No, but I think firms do put in a lot of effort to get this information right. And it's just some firms have better, have over time fine-tuned their processes. But you'll see, like you said, about 75 or so are in the first three, which is they really don't have much visibility. And it's not because the team's not working hard. Like I said, Rob, team is really working hard, but they don't have the right tools to have the visibility on where to focus. Has the client even opened the email, right? So when you have these information and these insights, it kind of empowers the team to make a much bigger impact on their monthly targets or their quarterly targets when it comes to collections.
okay,
So
fascinating.
yeah.
Okay, we got a quick question here. How do you deal with an attorney who doesn't bill every month? So I guess the person's alluding to how you price your services. Do they get any type of?
Yeah, so I'll answer it in two ways. So one, from platform perspective, whatever the cadence is, it is fine. We don't have to worry about it. And from the pricing perspective, what we will do is, typically, if you have matters like that where you don't do monthly, we'll probably look at your annual invoice. So that should give us a good indication, and then we'll price it accordingly. So it's not just there's a pretty big difference between month to month, the number of invoices. We'll just look at your, let's say, an annual estimated one. And again, this is a collaborative effort. It's not like, hey, if you send 100 more invoices, suddenly the price spikes up. We always work with our customers, to make sure that they are seeing the value in the platform first and foremost. And typically our customers see an ROI in a few billing cycles. But yeah, hopefully that answers the question. If not, happy to take it offline and make sure we answer your question on that.
Okay, well, I said we talked a lot about your clients, the law firms. What do their clients say about this?
Yeah, so one of the very intangibles that I always talk about, Rob, is what's your client's experience in this? You look at law firm, they spend inordinate amount of time and money and energy to provide the best legal service to their clients. But when it comes to the whole billing side of things, again, it seems like a broken record, I'll say this, but they don't have the right tools to provide this. And it's, again, not because the team's not trying to do that. But let's say if a client calls and says, hey, can I get my last 6 months of invoices or my outstanding invoices? It's not a simple thing today for firms to do that. Well, some firms I'm sure will have it right away, but most firms like, oh, what invoice did I send them, 6 months ago? That's cleared from my Outlook outbox, and there are three versions of invoice that I see. I don't know which one did we send then. Now they have to figure out, oh, look at the date timestamp and look in three history. And if you have to do this for 5, 10, 15 invoices, geez, it's going to take you a couple of days, if not a week or so. And a simple ask from a client to say, hey, send me my outstanding or 6 months of invoices translates into a distraction for the team to go and do this task and come back with that. From there, let's say they end up with these 15 PDF invoices. Now, how do we get this across to the client? Well, I have to, if I attach them all in an email, the email will not take that size attachment, or I have to now break it up, zip it up. It's just a chaos and a nightmare, right? In our platform, it's one click. You look up that client, you select all outstanding or previously paid invoices, and click a button that says share. They go out and the client has an option to download them as a single zip file with all those, or even combine them if they want into a single PDF. So by the time even the client keeps the phone down with that request, that email would be in their inbox to say, hey, here are the 20 invoices you requested. Like, what's the value of having that elevated client experience, right? Second example I'll give you is think about the payments. So, again, clients, law firms use today many different type of payment solutions. We partner with AffiniPay. We have another partner and a few others we work with. So we are pretty agnostic to payment platforms. Most firms have already some kind of online payments they accept. But what's the experience in that, right? So they get an invoice. Now they go to a completely different website to put in their information in there, the client and the invoice number and the matter and amount. And let's say if they put three invoices in there and they click the payment, law firm gets a deposit of 16,762 in their bank. Well, how do I allocate this back to my invoices? Because no three invoices are matching up, right? It's a tedious task, and the client has to now put in all the information. We streamline that. When they are viewing the invoice, there's a payment button right over there. They click on it. All information is pre-filled. They don't have to do anything. And the payment choices are controlled by the firm. The firm can say, oh, for these clients, I don't want the credit card options. Or for these amount, more than $10,000, I don't want a credit card. Only ACH is allowed. Or they can configure this in any way. They can say, I don't want the credit card at all, only ACH. Whatever their choices are. They configure it, the client pays, the money shows up in their account, and they get a detailed line-by-line breakdown of which invoice they paid and how much amount was paid toward that invoice, right? And we take this information, which is now ready to be reconciled, because at line-by-line item, what amount was paid against each invoice. Another example I'll give you, and this is also a very significant part, is having a self-service portal for your clients. Well, I talked about client requesting invoices. Well, why do they even have to do that? Why can't a client log in and just look at their invoices? And I'll give you an example of this. Many years ago, I changed my garage door up, and that guy sent me an electronic invoice that I could view and pay. And then if any previous work I'd done with that handyman, I could go and look at my invoices. Now I'm like, well, this is, a 2 or 3 person company that has all of this automated, where I can get an electronic invoice and pay from my phone. How about having a similar experience, a similar consumer grade experience for law firms client, right? And that's exactly what we provide to make it seamless for them. The same experience they have elsewhere when they go to Amazon or anywhere else when they're paying any invoices, that's the experience they have over here.
So I think you made a point earlier, and you made it a number of times, that it's not the people, it's not a people issue. It's more they just don't have the tools to, for instance, pay, click a button and get it paid by the client. The firms don't have that functionality unless they're using, unless it's through their time and billing system, which I'm not aware of. But okay, yeah. So again, I think it's not a people
The contrary,
issue.
I'll say, Rob, to your point, when we talk to billers and collectors, they're working really hard. They're working really long hours because, they are compensating with all the manual work, with all the noise around them to get to their quota of things they need
Right.
to do, right? With the platform, it becomes a lot easier and more productive for them to know where to focus to see those results and targets that they are setting for themselves and for the team. So, there's no shortage of hard work. It's having the right tools. And that's what we believe very strongly. Oddr provides them the right tool of insights and visibility and tracking to really make an impact in this revenue cash cycle.
Very well put. Okay, we got about 2 minutes left. I'm going to put you on the hot seat and hit you with a couple of rapid fire questions. How about integration with Adderant, Elite? Any issues?
No issues at all. We do integrate with both of them. And like I said, we work with both on-prem and cloud versions of both the platforms.
Okay. We talked about how you get paid. What's been the biggest challenge so far going to market with this?
I think initially, Rob, we really struggled with just kind of carving this invoice to cash category. Most firms do not budget for invoice to cash. They do not think about invoice to cash as a product category when it comes to their processes or other things like that. And I think over the course of last 3 years, like I said, I think now invoice to cash, and you can tell me this, but invoice to cash is one of the hot topics. And, I hear invoice to cash in different forums and, ILTA topics and different user groups. So this is something that has always been the attention for law firms. We just help kind of coin that phrase of invoice to cash and wrap all these processes into a single process. And that's what it should be. So, that was some of the initial struggle, like just saying, what is invoice to cash? Well, it's billing, collections, payments, reconciliation, right? It's not 4 different product categories. It's
Right.
one platform category. And I think, we shared an invoice to cash buyer's guide on our website also, which talks about what does this invoice to cash product category mean? Like as firms are looking through it, think through this, and we don't do all of in there. Like I said, we don't do e-billing, and we are very honest and upfront about that, right? But you have to look at all those considerations if you're looking at invoice to cash, because it's not, you can be extremely efficient in one sliver of that, but the overall impact comes when you think about the whole process.
Okay, fascinating. Okay, so I'll tell you, we got 1 minute to wrap this up. Any closing comments?
No, I would say, firms who would love to learn more, I would be honored to share more about us and our platform, and how a lot of our customers, whether they're AmLaw 100, AmLaw 200, they are leveraging the platform to really see good ROI for them in just few billing cycles. So I would welcome the opportunity to share. So please reach out. And Rob, I'll say this, which is thank you for having me on there. I really enjoyed, like we did. It was a very good conversation when we did the CFO CEO forum also. So I really appreciate that as well.
I tell you, it's my pleasure. I tell you, I was educated about an area I don't have a lot of knowledge about. And I tell you, I think you have a unique proposition that you're bringing to the marketplace. For the audience, Brooke Johnson posted in there the invoice to cash, a buyer's guide for billing, collections, and finance professionals for law firms. So click on that and download that. And if there's any follow-up questions, our information is right in front of you. Please don't hesitate to follow up anything for Oddr or for Mattern. So I appreciate everyone's time today. And Milan's doing this on his vacation. So I appreciate you taking the time out of your vacation and calling in and participating. Great job. Great job.
Thank you, Rob, for having me. Thank you once again.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.